Right now, at this very moment, Earth is being bombarded by one of the most powerful solar storms we have seen in over 2 decades. And if you are watching this within the next 12 hours, you need to pay attention because tonight could give you a once-in-a-lifetime viewing experience. We are dealing with an S4 solar radiation storm. The last time we saw anything like this was October 2003. That is 23 years ago. But here is what nobody is talking about. This is not just about pretty lights in the sky. High-energy particles are slamming into our atmosphere right now, disrupting satellites, knocking out radio communications near the poles, and creating navigation problems for aircraft flying over Greenland and the Arctic. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you live anywhere in the lower 48 states, you have a legitimate chance of seeing the northern lights tonight. Not just in Alaska, not just in Montana. We are talking about northern lights visible as far south as Texas, Florida, and possibly even into Mexico if this storm reaches G5 intensity. But before we dive into exactly where you will see them and what time to look, I need to show you something at the 30-second mark that is going to shock you. The sun just unleashed one of the strongest solar eruptions in decades, and the energy from that eruption is hitting us right now. In the next 4 minutes, I am going to reveal the exact timeline for when the lights will be most visible in your area. But first, you need to understand why this storm is so historically significant. Comment below with your city and state, and I will personally tell you your chances of seeing the northern lights tonight and what time to look outside. Here's the shocking part. Passengers on flights over polar regions right now could be receiving ionizing radiation. This is the same type of radiation that increases long-term cancer risk. Airlines are already rerouting some flights to avoid the worst of the radiation exposure. That is how serious this solar storm actually is. We have not had a geomagnetic storm watch at this level since May 2024. And before that, you would have to go back to 2003 to find anything comparable. The sun is in an extremely active phase right now, and what happened over the last 24 hours caught even solar physicists by surprise. A massive coronal mass ejection, that is a billion-ton cloud of magnetized plasma, erupted from the sun and is now colliding with Earth's magnetic field. Think of it like this. Imagine a fire hose of charged particles traveling at 1 million miles per hour, and that fire hose is pointed directly at our planet. That is what is happening right now. The Space Weather Prediction Center has issued a G4 geomagnetic storm watch. On a scale of G1 to G5, we are at G4 right now, but conditions are evolving rapidly, and a G5 storm, which would be extreme, remains possible for tonight. Now, you might be asking, what is the difference between a G4 and a G5 storm? That difference determines whether you see northern lights or not, especially if you live in the southern United States. I'm going to show you the exact viewing maps in just a moment, but first, let me explain what is actually causing this. Solar radiation storms are rated from S1 to S5. We are currently experiencing an S4 event. These storms occur when the sun accelerates particles, mostly protons, to incredibly high speeds. These particles then race toward Earth and slam into our upper atmosphere. When they collide with oxygen and nitrogen molecules, they create those beautiful dancing lights we call auroras. But here is what most people do not realize. These same particles can penetrate satellites, disrupt GPS signals, interfere with high-frequency radio communications, and even affect power grids. We are already seeing radio blackouts near the North and South Poles. Aviation traffic in those regions is experiencing communication difficulties right now. Here is the critical timeline you need to know. The peak viewing window for most of the United States will be between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. tonight, your local time. That is when the geomagnetic storm is forecast to reach maximum intensity. But conditions can change hour by hour, so you need to be ready to step outside at any point after darkness falls. Let me show you what a G4 storm looks like in terms of viewing areas. Under G4 conditions, overhead auroras, the really spectacular displays where you see curtains of green, purple, and red dancing across the entire sky, those will be visible across the northern plains, the Northeast, and the Pacific Northwest. We are talking about states like Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. If you live in these areas, you are in for an incredible show tonight. This will be the kind of aurora display that you tell your grandchildren about. The lights could be so bright that they illuminate the landscape around you, but it gets better. Moving further south, areas including Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and North Carolina will likely see a northern aurora glow on the horizon. This means you will see a greenish or reddish glow toward the north, and if you get away from city lights, it will be quite visible to the naked eye. Now here is something really cool for those of you even further south. If you are in northern Florida near Jacksonville, or in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, New Orleans, Birmingham, Atlanta, or Columbia, South Carolina, you may not see the lights with your naked eye. But if you take out your smartphone, point it toward the north, and use a longer exposure setting or night mode, your camera will pick up the auroras. The camera sensors are more sensitive than our eyes to the specific wavelengths of light that auroras produce. That is under G4 conditions. But remember, a G5 storm is still possible tonight. And if we hit G5, everything changes. Under a G5 extreme geomagnetic storm, overhead auroras could be visible as far south as Oklahoma, Tennessee, and North Carolina. We could even see them slightly further south than that. The aurora glow line would extend down to Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and southern Texas, including Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston. And here is the truly mind-blowing part. The camera line, meaning where you could photograph auroras with your smartphone, would extend all the way into Mexico. The entire lower 48 states, including all of Florida, even down to Miami, would be able to capture northern lights with a camera. When is the last time anyone in Miami saw northern lights? Never in modern record keeping. That is how rare this could be. Now let me be very clear about something. Northern lights forecasting is extremely difficult. Sometimes the forecasts underperform and the lights are not as strong as predicted. Sometimes they overperform and we get a much better show than expected. That is why you need to be ready tonight regardless of where you live. I am going to give you the cloud cover forecast in just a moment. But first, drop a comment right now with your location. Tell me what city and state you are in, and I will reply with your specific viewing chances and the best time to look outside in your area. This is a community effort. We are all in this together tonight. Okay, let us talk about the weather because clouds are the #1 enemy of aurora viewing. You can have the most powerful geomagnetic storm in history, but if you have thick cloud cover, you will not see anything. The good news is that weather conditions look favorable for most of the country tonight. High pressure is dominating across much of the United States, which means generally clear skies for the majority of viewers. Here is the breakdown by region. The Northeast is dealing with a low-pressure system that is bringing some snow and clouds. Areas from upstate New York through Pennsylvania and into New England will have some cloud cover, but it should be scattered, not solid overcast. You will likely get breaks in the clouds that will allow viewing opportunities. The Great Lakes region looks pretty good. There is a snowpack on the ground across Wisconsin and Michigan, but the sky above should be mostly clear. This is actually perfect for aurora viewing because the snow on the ground will reflect the aurora colors and make them appear even brighter. Moving to the northern plains, some cloud cover is moving in from Canada into areas like Montana and the Dakotas, especially late tonight into early tomorrow morning. Western Montana may struggle with clouds, but eastern Montana, the Dakotas, and Nebraska should have decent viewing conditions for most of the evening. The southern plains, this is where it gets interesting. Arkansas, Oklahoma, northern Mississippi, and northern Texas will have scattered to numerous clouds around 7 p.m. local time. However, conditions should improve as we move toward 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., which is actually when the aurora viewing will be at its peak anyway. So even if it looks cloudy early in the evening, do not give up. Check again later. Unfortunately, Houston and the Texas Gulf Coast will likely have significant cloud cover. If auroras do make it that far south, viewing will be very difficult in that area, but you never know. Weather can change rapidly, so keep checking. The southeast looks excellent. Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, and Florida should have mostly clear skies. The East Coast from Florida all the way up to Maine should have minimal cloud cover. This is fantastic news for tens of millions of people. The West Coast and Mountain West look mostly clear as well. California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico should have good viewing conditions, although remember, these southern areas would need a G5 storm to see anything significant. Now let me give you some practical tips for viewing tonight. First, get away from city lights if possible. Light pollution is a major problem. Even a short 10 to 15 minute drive out of town can make a huge difference. The darker your location, the better your viewing experience will be. Second, give your eyes time to adjust to the darkness. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes for your eyes to fully adapt to night vision. Do not look at your phone screen constantly, or you will ruin your night vision adaptation. Third, look toward the north. That is where the auroras will appear. However, during very strong storms, auroras can actually appear in other parts of the sky as well, so scan the entire horizon. Fourth, be patient. Auroras come in waves. You might see nothing for 15 minutes, then suddenly the sky explodes with color for 5 minutes, then it fades again. Stay outside for at least 30 to 45 minutes to give yourself the best chance of seeing the active phases. Fifth, dress warmly. January nights are cold, especially if you are standing still outside for extended periods. Bring blankets, hot coffee, or cocoa and make an event out of it with family and friends. For those of you using cameras or smartphones, here are some settings that work well. If you have a DSLR or mirrorless camera, use a wide-angle lens, set your ISO to 1600 or 3200, use an aperture of f2.8 or wider if you have it, and set your shutter speed to 10 to 20 seconds. Use a tripod to keep the camera steady. If you are using a smartphone, switch to night mode or pro mode if your phone has it. Point the camera north, hold it steady, or prop it against something and let it take a longer exposure. You will be amazed at what your phone can capture that your eyes cannot see. Now, I promised you I would explain why this storm is happening and why it is so significant. The sun operates on an approximately 11-year cycle. During solar minimum, the sun is relatively quiet. During solar maximum, the sun becomes extremely active with frequent sunspots, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections. We are currently approaching the peak of solar cycle 25. The sun has been more active than expected over the past year. In May 2024, we had a severe G5 geomagnetic storm that brought auroras to many southern states. Some people are calling this current event potentially even stronger. What makes this particular storm so notable is the S4 solar radiation storm rating. This measures the flux of high-energy protons at satellite altitudes. An S4 storm means that radiation levels are high enough to pose risks to satellites, astronauts, and even high-altitude airline passengers on polar routes. The coronal mass ejection that caused this storm erupted from a particularly large and complex sunspot region. When the eruption occurred, it sent billions of tons of magnetized plasma hurtling toward Earth at speeds exceeding 1 million miles per hour. The journey from the sun to Earth takes about 24 to 72 hours depending on the speed of the ejection. This particular CME was fast and well aimed directly at Earth. When it collides with our planet's magnetic field, it compresses and distorts the field, allowing particles to funnel down toward the poles. This is what creates the auroras, but it also creates other effects. Geomagnetically induced currents can flow through power grids, potentially causing voltage fluctuations or even transformer damage in extreme cases. Utility companies have been notified and are monitoring their systems closely. Satellite operators are also on alert. High-energy particles can damage sensitive electronics on satellites and cause them to malfunction or fail completely. GPS signals can become degraded or unreliable during strong geomagnetic storms. Amateur radio operators will notice that HF radio frequencies, especially on the lower bands, will be severely disrupted. This is because the ionosphere, the layer of the atmosphere that reflects radio waves, becomes disturbed during geomagnetic storms. For most people, though, these technical disruptions will not be noticeable in daily life. Your cell phone will work fine, your internet will work fine, your electricity should remain stable. The main impact for the average person is the spectacular sky show, and that brings me to the most important thing I need to tell you about tonight. At around 10 p.m. to midnight, depending on your time zone, this storm is forecast to reach peak intensity. That is when you have the absolute best chance of seeing auroras no matter where you are. Do not wait until it is convenient. Do not say you will check later. Set an alarm on your phone for 10 p.m. Step outside, look north, give it 15 minutes. you might witness something that you will remember for the rest of your life. I cannot stress enough how rare this is. Yes, people in Alaska see auroras regularly. People in northern Canada and Scandinavia see them often. But for someone in Tennessee or Oklahoma or Virginia to see a major aurora display, that is something that might happen once or twice in an entire lifetime. The last really big one visible this far south was in March 1989. That storm was so powerful it caused a blackout in Quebec and damaged transformers across North America. Before that, you would have to go back to 1958 or even the Great Geomagnetic Storm of 1859 to find comparable events. We are not expecting anything as severe as those historic storms in terms of infrastructure damage, but in terms of aurora visibility across the United States, tonight could rival some of those legendary events. Now let me address something important. Some of you might be worried about safety. Is it safe to be outside during a geomagnetic storm? The answer is absolutely yes. The radiation from a solar storm does not reach the ground. It is absorbed by our atmosphere high above us. You are completely safe standing outside watching the auroras. The only people who need to be concerned are astronauts in space, who receive additional radiation monitoring and protection, and passengers on high-altitude polar flights, who might receive slightly elevated radiation doses similar to getting an extra chest X-ray or two. Airlines are aware of this and adjust routes when necessary. For everyone else on the ground, there is zero health risk from being outside during a geomagnetic storm. In fact, the bigger risk is probably the cold weather, so again, dress warmly. Let me also mention that if you are hoping to see auroras, you need to be realistic about what they look like. The photos you see online are often enhanced or taken with long exposures that gather more light than your eye can see in real time. To the naked eye, auroras often appear as a greenish or whitish glow, sometimes with hints of red or purple. They move and dance across the sky, which is what makes them so mesmerizing. During very strong storms, the colors become more vivid, and you can see bright greens, reds, purples, and even blues. The auroras can form curtains, arcs, rays, and patches. They can pulse and flicker. Every aurora display is unique. If you have never seen an aurora before, even a faint one will be amazing. If you are a veteran aurora chaser, tonight could give you one of the best displays you have ever witnessed outside of Alaska or the Arctic. Before we move on, comment below right now with where you are watching from. Are you going to try to see the auroras tonight? What is your cloud situation looking like? Let us build a community of aurora watchers across the country. Share your photos and videos in the comments or tag us on social media. We want to see what you see tonight. Now, I need to tell you about something else that is developing, and this is critical information for millions of Americans. While we are all focused on the northern lights tonight, a dangerous winter storm is taking shape that will impact the United States later this week. This is not just any winter storm. We are talking about a potentially historic ice and snow event that could affect nearly 100 million people from the southern plains to the East Coast. And the timing could not be worse because this is hitting areas that are not equipped to handle significant winter weather. Here is what we are tracking. By Friday night and early Saturday morning, wintry precipitation will begin to develop across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. But this is not going to be your typical snow event for these areas. We are talking about significant freezing rain. Freezing rain is one of the most dangerous and destructive forms of winter precipitation. Unlike snow, which can be plowed and driven on with care, freezing rain creates a coating of ice on everything it touches. Roads become skating rinks. Power lines accumulate ice and snap under the weight. Tree branches break and fall. The current forecast shows freezing rain developing from Amarillo, Texas, eastward through Lubbock and into the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex by late Friday night. This would continue through Saturday, with some areas potentially receiving up to 1 inch of ice accumulation. 1 inch of ice is catastrophic. That is enough ice to bring down power lines, snap tree branches, and make roads completely impassable. We could be looking at widespread power outages affecting hundreds of thousands of people across Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana by Saturday. And here is the problem. These states do not have the infrastructure to handle major ice storms. They do not have the salt trucks and snow plows that northern states have. Many people do not have winter tires. The entire region could shut down for days. While the ice is the biggest concern, heavy snow will also be falling further north. Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas could see significant snowfall, possibly 6 to 12 inches in some locations. Cities like Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Tulsa, and Little Rock could all see major snow accumulations. By Saturday night and Sunday, this winter storm will push into the southeast. Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and potentially even Louisiana could see ice accumulation. Meanwhile, heavy snow will spread into Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, and North Carolina. Cities like Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, Lexington, and Roanoke could all see several inches of snow. The probability maps are showing a 50 to 60% chance of at least 6 inches of snow from Oklahoma City through Memphis, Nashville, and into parts of Virginia. That is significant, especially for areas that might only see snow like this once every few years. This storm will wrap up by late Sunday as it moves offshore, but the impacts will linger for days. Ice-covered roads and downed power lines do not clean up quickly, especially in areas without the equipment to handle them efficiently. We will have detailed coverage of this winter storm starting tomorrow. In fact, we may have 2 video updates per day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, as this system develops. By the end of the week, we will likely be doing live streams to keep you updated in real time as the storm unfolds. If you live anywhere from Texas to Virginia, you need to start preparing now. Stock up on non-perishable food, water, batteries, flashlights, and any medications you need. Charge your devices. Fill up your gas tank. If you have a fireplace or generator, make sure you have fuel. Do not wait until Friday to prepare. Grocery stores will be packed and supplies will run low. The time to prepare is now while you still have time. This is shaping up to be one of the most significant winter storms we have seen in years for the southern United States. The combination of heavy snow and significant ice accumulation is a recipe for disaster if people are not prepared. So let me recap everything you need to know. Tonight we have a historic geomagnetic storm that could bring northern lights to nearly the entire United States. The peak viewing window is 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. local time. Get away from city lights, look north, be patient, and dress warmly. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Then, later this week, a major winter storm will bring dangerous ice and heavy snow to a huge portion of the country from Texas to Virginia. If you live in these areas, start preparing now. This is not a storm to take lightly. Drop a comment with your location and let me know if you are going out aurora hunting tonight and if you are preparing for the winter storm this weekend. We are tracking both of these major weather events closely, and we will keep you updated every step of the way. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on because we are going to have multiple updates over the next several days. This is a week where you absolutely need to stay weather aware. Between the geomagnetic storm tonight and the winter storm this weekend, this is one of the most significant weather weeks we have had in a very long time. The forecast world is extremely active right now, and we are here to keep you informed and safe.